Dear friends, welcome to Think BRICS. Today, our guest is a political analyst, Professor Lorenzo Pacini, and a friend of our channel, Lorenzo Pacini.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody.
Hi, nice to see you again. Welcome to Think BRICS. And Lorenzo, you have been on our channel several times, and we are glad you are together with us again. Um, Today, I would like to talk about general picture of what is happening in Asia in general. Well, we are witnessing turmoils, especially the recent one in Nepal. That is actually very interesting. Can you give us a general picture of what's happening?
Thank you so much. Well, Asia is living at a time of its rising, I think. We are entering in the center of Asia. Center of Asia means that we'll be the world leader in a very few decades, maybe will be the only continent with a true strong leadership that will lead the whole world for maybe the next few centuries. About what is happening in these moments, we see that whole Asia is attacked by several points. And we know, I mean, let me say, we know who he is, which is the mandate of these attacks. Of course, is the collective West. We know that it's very important for the Western countries, mostly UK and USA, but also Europe, in this moment where we see that there is a kind of movement by France, Germany, of course, according to UK, to move against the Asian world, firstly to Russia, but also to the Eastern Asia. There is this desire to destabilize the borders of Asian countries. So we see that they are attacking not only Ukraine, but they are destabilizing the Balkans, they are destabilizing the Caucasus and the Caspian Sea, and of course, they are trying to attack in Central Asia. The facts in Nepal are an evidence of this. I know pretty well Nepal and have very good relation there, also with the government, mostly prime minister and the president, and also the previous one. And yesterday, when we had the attacks, the first moments of the attacks, I contacted them immediately. They kindly answered me. We actually don't know what is happening for true. And I immediately tried to check and analyze the situation, even if there are not so many informations. Just few videos filtered by the medias, very few texts coming from that side. So it's pretty complicated. But what we know as a base of information to work on is that we have a huge influence by the United Kingdom in Nepal. Actually, all that zone of Asia was under, as we know, the control of the British Empire. We have India, we have Bangladesh, okay? And Nepal has a key role in the relations between India and China, and that's the point. Because we saw in the previous weeks that China and India are siding apart their troubles and they started to agree for a common shared future. And let me say, India will have a very smart and strong growth in the next years, just because it's rising as a superpower in the world. And with China, they can do together very great things, even if they have such a different point of view, such a different style, also many problems by the past. But with SCO meeting, we saw this great alignment between India and China. And Nepal, as a key role plays, should be destabilized by the United Kingdom. United Kingdom, which has still in Nepal some investments with the National Bank, some educational project. Actually, mostly the whole educational system of Nepal is still under the control of the United Kingdom financially. So this is a huge problem because Nepal, as we know, it's not a superpower. Actually, it's a very little country The GDP is not meaningful for the global trade. They are close within mountains and different countries, and the neighbors, except then Bhutan, are China and India, the only two countries that they can count on. So the problem is still present because destabilizing Nepal means to create a huge focus point in the middle of Asia by the territory of the mountains, which actually it's one of the most delicate, both for India and for China, if we look to it by a strategic military perspective. And secondly, they need to destabilize Nepal also because for some ethnic issues. As we know, on the other side in China, there is Tibet. So we have a religious war still a little bit present, and with an international understanding which has been misunderstood many times. So as we know in the world, we have who thinks that Tibet should be independent and should be a religious state separated because of Buddhism. On the other side, we have the Chinese perspective that says that Tibet is China. And so pressing on these kind of issues could destabilize the position of Nepal in an international context. But also we know that Nepal applied for BRICS. And let me say, we already saw in other occasions that when some countries are applying for BRICS, something happened. that's a very clear event that we should expect, as I'm expecting the same for other countries who applied in the last meeting in Rio and already for countries that applied in Kazan 2024. We will see what will happen in Nepal. The government is collapsing. I think this is a very interesting strategic decision because they can now manage better the solution. But the point is that Nepal has no military strong and has not a position that can achieve by itself international goals. That's the point. So destabilizing Nepal means to give a provocation to China and India, both or together or each against the other one. Their help and their not soft power in this case, but maybe their direct exercise of a power will be important for the Western countries to have a measure of their influence in the zone and to see also how they can afford some shocking events that can try to destabilize their relations. So this will be very, very, very important. We should monitor in Nepal. Nepal, for example, for European countries doesn't mean so much because there are pretty no diplomatic relation with any countries in the Europe, but it's very important for United Kingdom because it represents still one of the very few nucleus of power that they have in the region. And if they also want to press on India, it's I think the right way. They know where they need to attack, and maybe after Nepal we should expect something in Bangladesh too.
Look, you mentioned that Britain has strong interest in Nepal, but the same the same is for China and for India. Both countries have investment projects. They have they are neighbors. Uh, can we say that Nepal, all that situation that is happening in Nepal, uh, may become a new front for Sino-Indian rivalry?
Yes, I think so. Of course, China and India both they have investments and projects with the United Kingdom, but they are superpowers. China can't survive without the UK investments, and China doesn't need anybody to go on. Something similar is India, even if India is still connected a lot to the English world, because it's still in a kind of post-colonialist era, not out at all at the moment. So they really need to look for some other tentatives for destabilizing India. I don't think that it's enough, the Nepal. That's why I say that they need Nepal and something else. because maybe in Nepal, for example, if we will see some peacekeeping missions by China or by India or by Russia too, because Nepal and Russia have strengthened very, very strong ties in the last 4 years. This means that maybe they can offer themselves as a neutral partner for solving these problems. Nepal itself could be a problem, but I really think to distract from over possible attacks and to try to disturb the positive relation between India and China. That's why I said if they act together, if they share the solution in Nepal, they would really be considered heroes, both of them, and this could help their positive relations. If not, if they will start to, let me say, to fall in the trap by the West, they could come back to negative relation each other. That's why it's very important, I think, a neutral mediator for this situation, so that they can find a better solution. Nepal is one of the growing countries. It's not in the global south, but it's one of the growing countries, exactly because they are investing a lot with multipolar countries. So this means that they need to maintain a good relation with all the BRICS countries. That's why the attack by the West it's intelligent. They are trying to let fight each other the BRICS countries.
So, because as soon as we witness that China and India are reapproaching, make steps towards each other,
Yeah,
at their borders, there is a destabilizing situation in Nepal. Well, besides Nepal, yesterday, the day before yesterday, Israel again did something that shouldn't have done. Military strike, military hit in Qatar. So the situation, even in this zone, is becoming absolutely out of control. So what we should expect there? The Gaza, the Gaza situation, Qatar, Israel, the United States, everything mixed up together again in that region. I mean, in Middle East. So from one part of the world, let's move to another one.
yeah.
What's happening there?
I was in Qatar just a few days ago, coming back from Southeast Asia, and tension is so high. I remember that one of the few things that they told me was, we exactly don't know what is going on, but we feel we have some kind of pressures. Let me say, Qatar has been one of those countries who actually never acted correctly to the Middle East powers, except then Israel. Because Qatar in the past, if we think, for example, in the 80s and in the 90s, Qatar has been used by the United States of America, has been used by Israel, was also trying to give financial aids to the Axis of Resistance, but actually every time they played just for their best interests. Nothing moral, nothing as a spiritual battle, okay? Qatar, as we know, has the biggest military base of the United States of America and the Middle East. So it's a country very, very, very important, because for them it's their it's their fire point in the Gulf, and they can manage many targets from there. If we remember the War of 12 Days within Iran and Israel in June 2025, Qatar was very important for the United States to attack Iran. Okay, so in my opinion, this attack in Qatar, maybe, let me say, could be something that was in such a way planned before. What I will tell you now, let's consider it as an option. Iran had many interests in cleaning some infiltrations in the whole axis of resistance and in Iran itself. And what we saw in June 2025 was that some of the people that were killed actually were people connected to Western powers. So we always need
Why?
to, because there were some of those people which actually are not celebrated as martyr in Iran, and this is very interesting. Not all the people that were killed are celebrated as martyrs in Iran. I was recently in Iran, and they explained me that there are people that maybe we can deal to solve the problems of infiltration, also managing some attempt. And this is something that works in every country. We should admit this. This is the work of military intelligence. Okay, what happening in Qatar is that what happened? Sorry, after the war of 12 days was that they found a deal. You remember that United States of America imposed themselves as a mediator in this conflict, just because we know that Donald Trump really loves to solve to be the solution maker for international conflicts, even when they start international conflicts. Just they need, their aesthetics to be always perfect. Well, he is a businessman, so he knows how this kind of things work. The word of 12 days, and I'm explaining this because it's connected, in my opinion, to the recent events, was fundamental for both sides. Israel wanted to attack Iran, but Israel was aware that they couldn't afford attack to Iran. And Iran showed to Israel, fighting one by one, okay, literally one shot, one shot, one shot, one shot. They showed that they were ready to fight a longer war. And this was something that Israel was not at all expecting. But the United States of America, yes. End of the conflict, that they would solve these problems of infiltration in other ways, more, let me say, orthodox ways, okay? Less shocking. What happened? That the deal, in my opinion, has not been respected by the Western side. And Western side, I also intend Israel. In Doha, there were this delegation from the political leadership of Hamas. And it's very important for the West to talk about Hamas as a creature of Israel. This narrative has been created years ago, actually, not now. Historically, Hamas is born before the influences by Israel. And it's true that in the 90s, Israel allowed to Hamas to receive some aids inside of Israeli lands, that actually is Palestine. And in this sense, the deal has always been, to don't have a direct attack to the leaderships. Israel never respected this deal. And what happened in Doha, it's a clear sign to Iran that they are not ready to respect their conditions. And Doha is touching also United States of America. I mean, they decided to fight in Doha. They could intercept the Hamas leadership in other countries. They could intercept them, for example, flying back home, or attempting them in Palestine, or in Lebanon, or in Iraq, in other countries of the axis of resistance. They did it there just because they want to send a message also to the actual leadership of the United States, which is not only Donald Trump, as we know. They are Zionists, and they are supporting the Great Israel. But America is fighting for its own interest. As we see in the last months, sometimes American leadership was not endorsing Israel at all. And this is a problem for the leadership of Netanyahu. I would expect, let me say, a fall of Netanyahu in the next months, maybe till the end of the year.
Really?
Because they are compromising him enough to substitute him. And now, also under an international look, he is the master of the century. So this means he's enough compromise to be switched with another leader, because of course we know that the problem is not Netanyahu itself, it's a Zionism, which actually it's very eradicated in the United States of America. Not respecting this deal, they are provoking Iran. And Qatar is a financially very strong power, but militarily not. And it's very little. And it has no sense, let me say, if we look to the in a logic of superpowers, they can destroy it very, very fast. Also, Israel could attack Qatar if they have the interest in doing that. Also, because Qatar is an Arab country, and as we know, Israel doesn't like Arabs. It's a very complicated
Not all
frame.
of them.
Yeah, all of them. It's a very complicated frame, but try to think what kind of message means for Israel to attack a political leadership. As we know by the news, they have survived. Okay, so they didn't kill them. The leadership of Hamas now will come back home, maybe home, with another message that they received, that Israel is never respecting ceasefires. Israel is looking for another solution, and Israel is also ready to play a double game all the times, sometimes helping with axis of resistance, sometimes not. That's the point. They are not trustworthy, and you never know what to expect by Israel. I hope, and I conclude, that the countries of the axis of resistance will learn finally that they cannot deal with them in any case. I know it's a very delicate thing. It's very, these kind of things are never white and black, are mostly gray with many, many shadows. But they need to learn how to be completely independent also in their mindset, not considering Israel as a possible speaker in their relations. So maybe going directly to America will be better, but their presence is too dangerous. It's too dangerous. And they need to work by themselves and not trust anybody. If they will trust United States, UK, Israel, Saudi Arabia, they would never win their battle. That's for sure.
Well, Israel declared that that strike was agreed with Washington, actually. Well, we see that there is no peace in that region, and there won't be for at least for nearest, I don't know, months, years. But the story with Netanyahu, I don't know, we have heard several times just since the beginning of that 7th October that his government is falling and etc. We'll see.
Let's see. Let's see. Yes, it's very, let me say, by a very, very simple political strategy, by manual, okay? When you have a leader, you can always blackmail, you can always use the leader for some reason, for some goals. And when you have someone that is so compromised in an international look, because come on, pretty the whole world is supporting Palestine, that doesn't mean to support axis of resistance, that doesn't mean to support the countries of the axis of resistance, okay? But the battle for Palestine became something worldwide. And it's a kind of, in the Western countries, it's a humanitarian battle. And by the humanitarian point of view, he is compromised. I mean, he really surpassed the red line many times. This means that they can substitute him, yes, maybe with someone else which is easier to manage, even if still a strong Zionist, maybe from the right side. But they need this passage. And this happened also in the past. Was the same in Israel. If we look to the history of Israel, since Ben Gurion as first prime minister till today, they always, this is a trend, mathematical trend, always changed the regime when the leaders were too compromised and they needed to pass to someone else. And this also gives us the idea of who is ruling the political leadership in Israel, which is not living in Tel Aviv for sure.
So they prefer just to close the page, the black page of this book, and
Yeah.
open another one. So when you say that the axis of resistance, the countries that support Hamas should not believe, should not, and not to make deals with Israel, with the United States, and act by themselves, it came to my mind, should they act like BRICS did recently when Trump told tariffs on Brazil 50%, on India and South Africa, and September 8th, Lula called an emergency summit to discuss, to deal, to discuss what to do with this situation. The United States always, well, and from my point of view, yeah, it's okay when the president, the leaders of the country, is taking care of his own country. Of course, it's the first. The United States, that with that trade war, trying to suppress other countries. In your opinion, that BRICS summit that happened on September 8th, what will bring to the world, to the economic world, to the political world?
I think that they needed that meeting, and the point is not by the Asian and African countries of BRICS, but by the Ibero-American countries. This is clear because before BRICS, we saw already the new tariffs by the United States. Yes, pretty in the whole world. They spread it in Europe, they spread it in African countries, they spread it in Asia, especially against China. The war of tariffs is a classic style for a classic solution for the United States of America, and they need it because Donald Trump is understanding that the public debt of the United States is completely getting crazy, and they cannot manage it because of the dollar is collapsing, and because Americans are incredible consumers. They consume 5 times than any other people in the world. So, and their economy is mostly based on import, and import means that they need to arrange some solutions. The dollar trade is based on this kind of imports. They pretty don't produce anything. So Donald Trump is attacking all the countries which are dealing with BRICS because they are not in the BRICS. And in this sense, let me say it's very, very smart because BRICS is using this to show to the world, to the other countries, that the BRICS system works actually, because they can go on. They didn't have too many consequences on their economies, and so it's a solution. It's a good solution. You can go out from dollar reign and enter in the BRICS partnership to live a better life. And on the other side, Trump used this also, of course, to press on the political leadership of BRICS, because we know that BRICS is a geoeconomics partnership, but they're actually acting with a kind of soft power on political institutions of the other countries that are not in BRICS. And BRICS is the biggest geoeconomic partnership. What happened with South America? Brazil has a very complicated situation. Brazil is in a very dangerous position because Brazil is a country which is an Ibero-American, is much infiltrated by CIA, which is an international checkpoint for some illegal trades like cocaine, for example. And they are the biggest country of Ibero-American, and they are literally surrounded by American influence and American military systems. We saw already in the past, let's think to Bolsonaro, for example, but also to the previous leadership of Lula, that they are ready to deal with everybody, just it should be convenient for them, okay? And it doesn't matter if they have some problems. with other countries. Okay, it doesn't matter about treating someone. What we see now that Trump is attacking also with the United Kingdom Venezuela.
Yeah.
Venezuela, which actually are kind of neighbors, okay, in the region. Venezuela, because we know, is the biggest site for oil in the world, and one part of Venezuela is actually controlled by English soldiers. So they need to destabilize Venezuela. They tried pretty every month, but now the attack is stronger. And to do that, of course, I think that Trump needs to find some deals with the neighbor countries, and the strongest one is Brazil, and by the second side is Argentina. Lula had the leadership of BRICS for the whole year. They didn't do anything. They just managed the meeting in Rio, but for the rest of the year, they didn't do anything. They were completely keeping in silence. They didn't develop anything, you know? Still, the concrete steps have been done by Russia, China, okay, mostly, and some new little countries. So now, only now that he is in trouble, he's asking for a meeting with the leaders of BRICS and trying to find a solution, because I'm pretty sure that they received a strong pressure to pose themselves by the side of United States of America, maybe under some kind of blackmails. And that the point is, if they don't allow to the United States of America to do their dirty job, what is going to happen to Brazil? In my opinion, Lula managed this meeting, urgent meeting, just because he needs a solution. He needs to know who are the allies and how much BRICS countries are ready to help Brazil in the case of a domestic conflict, for example. We know that Brazil, it's a federation, it's a very big country. They have many problems inside of the country. And if some little fires could become bigger, they would have a collapse of entire parts of the country that is full of international companies, okay, not Brazilian one. Maybe it's time for Brazil here to find a good solution for sovereignty and independency, but the point is that they are afraid, by my point of view, they are afraid of what can come next. Tariffs are a problem, yes, for sure, 15% with over tariffs, yes, but let's remember that tariffs mostly are a problem for the domestic economy of the United States, not for the other countries. How they works, most of them applied by Donald Trump. I remember I read the document, okay? Mm-hmm. Most of them are tariffs that are activated when the goods arrives in the United States.
Yeah.
So actually importing in the United States is not anymore convenient. This means that companies in the United States will stop or short the trades with foreign companies, and so the consequences will be in the economies of the other countries. But most of those countries, like China, they can do by themselves, or they can find other partners, even if it's not so easy, because China, the biggest trader, is exactly the United States of America. So if they stop at all, they could have some, not problems, but they could, start to have a slow growing or some little
go in recession.
Yes, exactly. This could happen in some months, maybe December, January, if they continue with tariffs. So Lula is afraid, Brazil is afraid. And if they are able to destabilize Brazil, I think that they will soon get also Venezuela. In this sense, Russians were very smart to improve their presence in Cuba again, and also Iran improved his collaboration with Venezuela. They established very strong ties for military cooperation. This is very interesting. It's like, and China, as we know, in Chile and Peru, they established a strong presence. So actually they are trying to close Ibero-America, even if it's not so easy.
You remember during the summit, BRICS summit in Kazan, Maduro was present
Yeah,
himself, and Venezuela applied to join BRICS. And who placed the veto?
Lula.
Brazil.
Yeah.
Brazil. Yeah, Lula himself was not present, and Brazil, represented by the foreign minister, actually literally said no to Venezuela to join BRICS. And just couple days ago, I saw I don't know a media outlet that quoted Lula's speech telling that Brazil should cooperate better with Venezuela. And I thought, after 2 years,
Yeah.
after 2 years, you realize that maybe that decision to veto Venezuela in BRICS was a mistake. Who knows?
Who knows? For sure, now they need to look for some new geometries in their relations. It's necessary.
Definitely.
Brazil itself is not ready to achieve a war against the United States. That's clear.
And the fact that that union of BRICS, we may say, dedollarization. We are talking about dedollarization from time to time, um, but is it real that BRICS may push dedollarization further?
In
How
my
do you see?
opinion, honestly, yes, but differently as they have spoken. Let me explain. I really see that during the Russian leadership of BRICS, they have been genius. Do you remember that we talked already here, and you exposed a lot of very, very good news about the BRICS pay system here on Think BRICS. And actually, that's the point. They started to talk about this common share payment system and alternative currency a couple of years ago, introducing it. This was a very interesting info warfare strategy because they checked, they destabilized some markets, they looked for some very good trade operations. And when they arrived in BRICS in Kazan and they just gave the cost of a coffee, they said, no, we are not ready. I mean, it's so complicated, so we cannot do a BRICS pay now. But in the meantime, they had tested how countries were ready to live from dollar. The dollarization, I think, is unstoppable. Also because dollar is not anymore representative of a strong political power as before. And actually, by a very simple financial doctrine, it's easier and better now, in this phase of the history, to exchange in national currencies. Also because this means for many of the countries to have improvements in their economies. Just an example. Asian countries who were blocked with the sanctions by Europe to receive the GLP, for example, or the oil, now they are selling in their national countries to the United States, and they are selling again to Europe. It's a deal perfect for everybody because they are both getting more money, making big money on something that before was directly sent to European countries and paid for just a few. So that's a very smart solution. On the other side, we see that this info warfare strategy was followed step by step by very clear diplomacy, geoeconomic diplomacy, because they reestablished new trades and they found many solutions in the exchange with national currencies. And it's very important because remember, a couple of years ago already we were talking about the substitution with the petrol yuan instead of the petrol dollar. Actually, it worked. By one side, it worked because now one side of the world is not anymore considering at all for the main goods dollar as the main currency. But on the other side, and President Vladimir Putin said that some months ago, nobody has a full interest in destroying dollar at all because dollar is very useful now just because it's collapsing. This means that they can trade better. This means that they can use the dollar, and also Americans are still the main consumers of the world. This means that they can manage the market of currencies, and they can also maybe by one side help the United States to destroy the Fed based dollar, to go back to a national banks based dollar, and maybe for international trade they could use a digital dollar that they are improving a lot, as mostly all the BRICS countries are improving their cryptocurrencies, okay, and digital currencies. So, in this sense, this is a process that, in my opinion, just to give an idea, would need not less than 15 years, 10, 15 years, because destroying a system that has been established worldwide is so hard, and people are suffering for this. The situation in America is it's very 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 delicate. So this de-dollarization, in my opinion, yes, it's going on because they need to switch completely the system. And of course, without dollar, the United States cannot anymore try to impose their hegemony worldwide. Also because, yes, they have weapons, but weapons are paid by dollars. So we'll arrive one time where, in the United States of America, just a couple of brackets, the military system works very well because they are paid very well, very, very well, more than all the other soldiers of the war, especially the officers. They have many interests. They have very good supplies. They have incredible welfare. Okay, just for them, and they know how to deal, with people that they want to use for making wars around the world. If you are not anymore able to support this kind of job relation, you cannot ask them to do the same job than before. So yes, you have some good, faithful people, and you don't need that so much for their loyalty. But for the others, what happened? And if you want to do a war, usually you need to increase
Yeah.
your participation to this relation. If not, nobody would go to fight a war for you. In this sense, maybe blocking this side of the dollar is very important because they are also limiting the expansion of some wars, and that's why, for example, Donald Trump actually limited the presence of some soldiers, and especially in Europe, for example, and in the Middle East, and he's using other ways. Another thing, just to let you understand how it's, we need step by step, it will be slow change in the world. In the past, United States of America have been famous because with CIA agents they could subvert governments, they could make attempts, they changed regimes, they exported democracy. Okay, they were doing a lot the inside job. Now they're not doing like before. In Venezuela, they tried, didn't work. They could maybe try in Brazil because they are infiltrated enough. But for example, in the Middle East, didn't work. This means that they have no anymore the strength, maybe also financial strength, and they have no anymore the permissions by the other countries to act like they are the ruler of the world. So now they need to go back to something very conventional, like, okay, we send our navy, for example, on the borders with in the sea borders with Taiwan, or we send our navies in the Mediterranean Sea or in the Gulf. But actually, this is a very classic military strategy. It's not the occult strategy they used for decades. This is an interesting change because it means they cannot anymore act like before because the measures are changing.
They're limited.
Yeah,
Lorenzo, I could listen to you for hours and talk to you for hours, actually. But let's back to
let's go on. Let's go on.
yeah, let's back to Asia. We started with Asia, and we know you have special relations with Myanmar, and you also wrote a book about Myanmar.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, Myanmar, in my opinion, will be an important, very important country for the multipolar development of the Southeast Asia, for very few reasons. First of all, it's the only country in Southeast Asia which has no relation with Western countries, official relations, especially with United Kingdom and United States of America. Let me say it's a pure, maybe still pure country in the whole block of Southeast Asia, in the whole peninsula of Siam. And this means a lot. Because as we know, the Strait of Malacca, which is down of Myanmar, Thailand, and Malaysia and Indonesia, is one of the most important for the global trade. Singapore is exactly at the center of this triangle. Okay. And for example, Myanmar is working for cutting some of the trade with in the Strait of Malacca, which is militarily controlled by the United States of America. This means to cut off a lot of trade for Americans, and not only Americans, also the partners in Southeast Asia. Very interesting, because they are strengthening new ties with all the neighbors in the region, and mostly with India and China. India, which they have a border, we also a little bit of Bangladesh, and India is the biggest partner for the trade and the biggest partner for the stabilization of the northern zone, which is the one affected by terrorism and by other struggles like drugs and criminality. On the northeastern side, we have the Yunnan, which is a big border with China. And historically, they are like brothers with China. They have an expression which really means that they are brothers of blood with Chinese, okay? And that's very important because they are more near to Chinese than all the other countries in Southeast Asia, more than Vietnam, for example, okay? This is so meaningful. So meaningful because they are working a lot to go out for China in the Indian Ocean exactly from Myanmar. And for India to go to the southern sea of China from Myanmar, cutting literally the land and going directly by river to Thailand and so go on. So they are reshaping the trade there. And also geopolitically, Myanmar is strategic because will be the first country to have nuclear power very soon in the whole Southeast Asia. They have a deal with Belarus and Russia for the nuclear energy, but they also have a deal for nuclear weapon. This means that, maybe for sure after the elections, they will be the first, let me say, little superpower of Southeast Asia. And actually, they are very smart in their projection in the future. They will have, for example, elections in December. They don't want international observers by United Nations because they don't want to remain inside of that international law system. So I suggested them something interesting. Okay, if you don't want them, let's call observers by BRICS. BRICS countries, SCO countries, Asian countries. And they said, okay, yes, that's really cool, let's do it. So I'm helping them to arrange some observers, just, 5-10 people by each country to come there, be just a little bit educated about geopolitics and geoeconomics of Myanmar and Southeast Asia. And in this sense, they will start a new trend that says we don't need to be recognized by United Nations and all that old system, New York based. We need something else. We believe that, Myanmar applied for BRICS. We need to look for a multipolar world. And they're working a lot about multipolarity, also in education with the youth generation. I was having a lecture, 7 hours of lecture to the 2,000 top students of all the universities of the country. And it was amazing They are really focused on the future. They're really they are fed with multipolarity, and so they are building very good perspectives to cooperate in BRICS, SCO. Also, they are working for a new Southeast Asian partnership because, as we know, the ASEAN has been, paused just a little bit back because it's not working like before and because it was a partnership that was invented by the United Kingdom. So they need to refresh their their future, and they are doing it very smartly, even if with many risks, like next election and the Western influence, terrorism, which are always next to the corner. But in this sense, yes, I've written a book that actually it's out in several languages, and just to let understand why this land, which is one of the richest of the world, richest for rares, for goods, for minerals, for gold. It's called the golden land exactly because of that. And they are ready to do their part in a multipolar world. Applying to BRICS and applying to the new anti-terrorism alliances, they are really telling to the people that it's possible for a very little country with very little GDP, which has been considered, third world until a few days ago, to join in and have a seat on the first line of an international context. So that's why it's very interesting by my point of view. And let me conclude saying that it's a good example, for example, for the Western countries to, reshape the mindset. Reshape the mindset. We have in Europe, for example, all those countries that are missing this opportunity in the history, joining in a multipolar world, and they are confusing themselves, just focusing on the big enemy Vladimir Putin that they want to destroy and blah blah blah. And in the meantime, there is the rest of the world that is looking forward to perspectives of peace, prosperity, common success, shared future, which actually is really better than going to die in a war.
Yeah. Well, actually, in times we are living, it sounds something incredible to that there is a country, little one, like you told, little superpower that still has no British or American footprint on it. Well,
It is, yeah.
what is the name of your book? Tell to our viewers.
Myanmar in the Golden Land. It's available also in ebook. On Amazon, you can find it both physical book and ebook. It's out in Italian, English, French, Burmese, Chinese, and soon also Russian. So yeah, has been actually not so many books have been written about Myanmar. so
In
so
fact,
that's it. I'm looking, trying
it'll be
to give
very
a look.
interesting to read it actually, because yeah,
Yeah,
you're right, and not so many books written, and we know so few about this country.
exactly.
To our viewers, thank you so much for following us. Stay with us, subscribe to Think Bricks, and see you next time. Thanks for watching.